as I want to get started and mount a new stone onto my machine, first off, I want to know what size machine it is, and it tells me on here what size the grinder is. So I'll go to the tool crib and I'll get the proper size stone that I need. And when I want to put on a new stone, I want to do what's called a ring test. We want to make sure that the stone is in good condition. The stone, when it's shipped to us, we have no idea what might have happened to it in the shipping process, whether it got dropped or damaged, bumped or banged. So we want to do what we call a ring test. I know this particular stone here has a very pretty ring to it, so I want to show you what it sounds like when the stone is complete. If the stone is cracked, it would have a dull sound, but as this one here is a good stone, and I hit it, you can hear a very clear ring from it. So that stone is good, it's got a nice ring. But if the stone was damaged, it's going to have a very dull sound about it. There's no ring to that one, hardly at all. So it's dead in its sound. Make sure that when you're doing that, you don't touch the stone other than let it lay on the piece of metal, and that'll give you a good clear ring. The grinder has an arbor that goes all the way through. On this end of the arbor, we have what we call a left-hand thread. We see that we would turn it to the right, which normally, when we are in the shop, a right-hand thread would normally tighten up. But on this one here, when we turn it to the right, it backs it off. And as it's running, it would have a tendency of tightening up. So we want to loosen this stone off, so I'm just going to hold it tight, and then I would release it with the wrench and then spin my stone off. So I'll put my wrench down, I'll spin that guy off. Then I got one flange on this side. I got my stone here. Take my bushings off, and I've got a blotter on both sides of this stone. And I also have another flange on the other side. Whoops, I pushed my bushings right out. There we go. So I have a flange on the back side. I have my bushings in place. Now I'm going to reach over and I'm going to get my flange and my nut. And I'm going to put it on. And the perfect size blotter. It fits right in behind that very nicely. And now I'm going to put my nut on and turn it to the left as it tightens up. And then I can take the big wrench and I just lightly hold the stone, put the big wrench on. Yeah, that's all I need to give it. I don't need to pound on any big heavy torque. Just keep it tight that way, because as it's running and operating, this nut here is always going to try to tighten itself up, and the nut on the other side, because it's a right-hand thread, is always going to tighten itself up. If you notice the guard, it actually sits forward about 45 degrees, 30 to 45 degrees on that angle. And what that does is it prevents the debris from coming up into your face as the operator. It makes sure that that debris does not come up, but it throws it down in this direction. So it's a function. You should always have a guard around the perimeter of it, exposing as a small amount of the wheel to do the work. We have this little guard here that is also a secondary guard to hit it catches sparks that may be coming around, and it knocks them down so that they fall down below, and then they're collected up into a bag that hangs off the back here, a fire retardant bag. We put these little spark deflectors on here a few years ago in order to keep the sparks from catching the fire retardant bags on fire. They did get extremely hot and they would smoke and smolder. So these little guards go on it, they catch the sparks or the hot pieces of metal, and then by the time they cool off of that and fall into the bag, they're no longer a fire hazard. Okay, now I'm going to get ready to install my outside guard on my grinding wheel to make sure that nobody can get their hands in there. So I'm going to position that in here, and you see the mating half of this is going to form a complete tube that we're going to put a bag on here in just a moment. So I'm going to set that fella on there like that. So here we have these little fire retardant bags. We put a tie wrap around it, and then we can cinch it off with these strings and tie it nice and tight. And ideally what it does is it catches grinding dust inside, as you can see. And that keeps it from going all over the floor and sparks from hitting people. Our little metal deflector or shield deflector, so I'll just pull that up over. And then I'm going to slide my tie wrap on here. And then I can tighten that little string down, and we are good to go. But I'm going to adjust my tool rest up now so that I'm about 1/16 of an inch away, and then I would just put a little bit of torque on that. Wrong wrench. So now you see I've got about 1/16 of an inch clearance in there. Not a real good chance to get that finger in there anymore. So there we go. We've got our clearance in here. And as I spin it around, it doesn't get closer, so it's not out of round. My stone is in pretty good shape. I would adjust this one up as well. So I'm about 1/16 of an inch away. You want to keep your tool rest just slightly around the center line of your grinding stone, or maybe just a wee little bit above, so that it can't grab the work and put it down in, like wedge it in between. So there we've got a pretty good clearance going on there. We've got a little bit of a groove in this wheel, and that's going to have to get dressed up and made look like something.